Greetings, everyone. 'Tis I, Mr. Kadish, the belabored producer of the Salty Nerd podcast. And today we are going to be focusing on not anything pop culture related, but actually we're going to be talking about the ins and outs of producing a professional quality, entertaining live stream. Now, normally we wouldn't be covering a topic like this on this channel, but Mexican Iron Man, not a YouTuber, by the way, not too long ago gave us a super chat and said that I should dedicate some time and effort to producing a live stream where I got other YouTube producers on the stream to talk about how insanely hard it is to wrangle cats in order to get a regular live stream produced, and not only get it produced, but also get it produced successfully. And so, knowing how wise and forward-thinking Mike is, Mexican Iron Man, I decided, you know what, on this day, when my three other co-hosts basically told me to go F off, they're going to do their own things for the holidays, I was like, you know what, why not take this opportunity to turn a chaotic situation into an even more chaotic situation by trying to organize other very busy producers to actually show up and talk about what they do. So I'm going to introduce my panel of super producers on YouTube, starting with the woman herself, X-Ray Girl. X-Ray Girl, thank you for being here.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm excited. This is something that I've never talked about live before, so a little nervous, but it's all good.
Well, why don't you tell everyone what live streams you are in charge of producing?
Oh, I help produce the Nerdrotic live streams, Friday Night Tights, Nooners, and Real BBCs, and Forbidden Frontier. But I also have to say that it's not just myself, it's really the whole team that really gets it together. We got Garrett as well, who does a lot of the in-person as well as the sound mixing on top of that, in the actual engineering aspect. So it's not just me, it really takes a village.
Well, there are multiple different aspects to producing, which I'm sure we'll get into. And joining us from the Dub-de-Dub show, Jonas J. Campbell, super producer extraordinaire. How you doing, buddy?
Wow, and I'm still not comfortable with you calling me a super producer, but I will accept it for the terms of this live stream. I produce the Pro Show, which is now used to be Thursday evenings. Now it is Tuesdays at noon, and then That Park Place Live, which I'm the co-host on the Pro Show. I am the host and producer of That Park Place Live on Thursdays at noon, and also I help out with the Valiant Renegade live stream on Sunday evenings whenever I am able. So it's an interesting job. Mostly I'm in the back going, hey guys, stay away from this, don't do that, you can't say that.
Like a parent.
Yes, I'm the only one that has a mind for the guys. Guys, you are going to try to monetize this later, right?
Well, I consider anyone who produces more than one live stream a super producer, so you are well welcomed among those ranks. But to take the newbie point of view on the panel, as someone who is brand new to producing her own live streams, I want to welcome Nadia from the Inside All Day podcast. How you doing, Nadia?
I am doing great. I'm excited to learn from everybody. Right now, Inside All Day produces, we'll be up to 3 live streams come time January. So I have the women pop culture focus one, which is Dames and Dorks. I have a D&D campaign one coming that premieres this weekend. And my husband and I, we do one called Clickbait, Stories from the Internet. So I produce 3 currently right now.
And the man who is responsible for this very live stream, at least the topic, the one and only Mexican Iron Man. How you doing, Mike?
How did I become responsible? What happened?
Well, as I was explaining at the top of the show, this live stream today is based off of a super chat you dropped us that said I should organize a live stream with some of the big YouTube producers to talk about how nightmarish it can be producing live streams. So you were the inspiration for this very live stream.
Yes, I would like to welcome everyone to the YouTube Producer Mental Health Support Network.
The Producers Anonymous.
Hi, my name is Mike. Everybody say it. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
I have been a YouTube producer for 4 years, 11 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, and 4 minutes.
I got your chip right here, Mike. I got your chip right here.
Yeah, and ever since I became a YouTube channel producer for many of your favorite channels, my life has become unmanageable.
Can I just say, Mike, this is okay. The last time we talked, and also the first time we talked, I was drunk. You were semi asleep, and we were
I was completely asleep.
timing from I think Polly's phone. So it's nice to actually meet you.
X-Ray Girl, I have literally spent hundreds of hours watching you be you on God knows how many Gary Nerdrotic live streams. So I feel like we've known each other forever.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I know it's. I mean, you don't know me for nothing, but like I feel like I know you like awesome. Nadia, I've seen a couple of your shows. Jonas Campbell, Jonas J. Campbell is I'm his sponsor.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Jonas reached out to me, said he wanted to be a YouTube producer, and I tried to talk him out of it. I
don't think that's how that conversation went.
I said, "Why in the name of God do you want to do this?"
Hey, Mike, why don't you tell everyone real quick what shows you've been producing?
Oh God. Well, Echo Base Network for a year and a half, including the mega shows that had all of the people that, on the big shows, including, where we had EVS and Ryan and Gary, Gary and, and Jeremy and Ryan. Echo Base Network was the first. Then Loki's Mornings of Mischief briefly. I've gone on to do Midnight's Edge, including the big shows with like Edward James Olmos, and we did the cast show with Polly for Latino Slant, where we did the Blood In, Blood Out reunion with the full cast. And Doomcock, I've done Doomcock shows. I produced his show helped him put that show together and now I'm just sort of a commentator now when he needs. I could go on and on and on. Probably too many shows. And I'm forgetting everybody that's watching this that I produce shows for you. Don't get mad at me that I didn't bring you up. You know who you are.
I'm going to say Valiant Renegade since I'm here.
Valiant Renegade. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, Valiant Renegade. I remember when Valiant called me. He's like, I want to do live show. I'm like, you're not doing live shows until you've been on YouTube for at least a year and we got some real subs. And then we're going to pick, and we picked out the time slot, and things have gone well there too. Yeah, there's others too. So I've done pro show for Jonas when Jonas is available. But I'm basically the diversity hire. Yeah.
Well, Mike, thank you all so much for being here and recommending this theme, because I'm really excited to get to it. So I want to start off with X-Ray Girl. X-Ray, you've got the thankless job of producing probably the most popular and the most chaotic live stream on the face of the planet, Friday Night Tights. Can you give us a general idea of how you got into the job of producing live streams for Gary and what it's like to manage such a huge and unwieldy live stream?
Okay, so I started dating Mark the Cyborg. That's how it really started. And he obviously
Me
is
too. No, I'm sorry.
Oh my God. We have something in common. He is obviously on YouTube, started working for Geeks and Gamers, and I never knew people live streamed, and then he got me a Switch for my birthday, and then they invited me to the Mario Kart streams. And then Jeremy asked if I would help out with a couple things when they had their gamer podcast, the games podcast. And so I did. His request was, can you timestamp things for us? And his thoughts was, I'm going to ask you to do introduction. And then at this segment, this is where we talk about Marvels, et cetera, et cetera. But I put it down as from 0 to 3 minutes and 30 seconds introduction, 3 minutes and 30 seconds to 4 minutes and 50 seconds topics, et cetera, et cetera. There was a fight at this time and just little things like that. And he's like, you are way too organized for me, but this is great. And so when Gary needed a producer, he recommended me because of my overachieving, overachieving-ness due to my schooling, I believe, and Asian parents. And it just worked out that way. So I never anticipated this was going to be my life. I just fell into it somehow.
And what's it like kind of, being in charge of such a huge live stream? I mean, you guys have something like almost 15,000 concurrent viewers when you guys go live. So, and also one of the biggest panels on there. I think you guys max out StreamYards at like 10 people.
It's like friends hanging out, except I don't talk about the stuff that they talk about. So when they talk about something, I'm like, okay, yeah, you guys go talk. I'll just hang out here. And we can chat. We just don't chat like that on stream, or at least I don't. Because
Well, are you doing anything behind the sscenes as people are like,
yes.
talking and stuff like that?
Yes, I'm collating super chats. I'm taking notes of the live streams because Perry Chan takes those notes and does daily videos on Nerdrotic Daily. He clips the live stream. On top of that, I do things like attendance, modding the chat, talking to the mods. What else do I do? If Gary or Garrett need anything, I try to find things as best as I can, or I talk to Lady Gravemaster. The social media posts, I try to take care of that as best as I can. And I'm just trying to think, what else do I do? Oh, and then I book guests. And yeah, make sure whoever isn't going to be there, I know they're not going to be there. And if we need to do something, then we'll have to adapt.
Let me ask you, how far in advance do you book guests?
Up to 3 weeks, unless it's a big one. Because I've learned after Alex Jones not to book too far, because if I have to move someone, I feel so bad asking them to move a date to book another guest. So I think 3 weeks is usually well enough. And sometimes it does take longer. And I'm down to even the week, because if there's homework, some people don't want to watch the certain movies or TV shows that they have to.
Yeah, I found like 2 weeks is usually the sweet spot, at least for the size of the live streams I produce. But Jonas, you produce so many different live streams, and a lot of them, you have special guests on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your process of how you go about producing some of these big streams and booking guests and stuff like that?
For us, the largest component of planning a lot of these streams is knowing what events are going on. So for me, especially because our model with the streams, especially lately, is covering as many stories as possible while also making sure that we cover it in a satisfying way. So a lot of my work beforehand is going through all of the news of the day and trying to figure out what relates to each other. It's helpful that right now Disney is insane in what they're doing, and they've been accused of more crimes than we can literally cover. It is an astounding thing to me to say that the largest entertainment company on the planet with such a squeaky clean image is getting accused of some of the things they're getting accused of. As far as guests go, we're coming up on 1 year of the Pro Show because Pro only launched his channel in January. He was doing Valiant Renegade before that. Valiant is on his own and talks to literally everyone. He will pop out with hey, I just want to tell you, nobody sent any spicy DMs my way, by the way. But he'll say, oh, but I was talking to this person, I was talking to that person, and we're all astounded by it. But for me, I will usually quietly try to make contact with someone if they like a tweet or something like that. I try to be very subtle, be very cool, like say, hey, over here, Robert Meyer Burnett, I like the way that you talk. By the way, I'm going to send him a DM. Nothing that requires a response. Just hey, I see what you're doing. I like the thing that you talked about, and something very specific and appreciative about what was said, and then leave it be. And then maybe I'll circle back at some time. If they respond and everybody's like happy and cool with everything, then I might be like, oh, place that with, hey, love to have you on That Park Place Live sometime. But I try as hard as I can to network and try to spot people that I appreciate what they're saying. Also, it doesn't have to be someone who's bigger than me in the space. And just make contact, see how they're doing, see how we jive. And when things are going well, I like to go about 3 weeks in advance as well. So it makes me feel really good that I jive with X-Ray Girl there.
Well, Jonas, we were talking a little bit before the live stream started about how sometimes you're in a situation where, the scheduling of the people who are meant to be on the live stream is in flux, right? Where like you have someone booked, but like they haven't confirmed that they're coming back on. And so like you don't know if they're actually going to show up or not. And so you have to reach out to a backup. That backup agrees to be on, and then they both show up. And you're like, well, we have too many people now, but like, I don't want to kick anyone because I asked them all to be here. Can you kind of explain to the audience kind of like, what happens in situations like those? When is it a good idea to reach out to a backup versus, having more people on the stream than you're comfortable with?
We should start with what the problem is when you have too many people on the stream. Because when we first started, our target number was about 6 or 7, and we were having some issues. We were stumbling very much in the early parts of the stream, and thankfully I had someone to back me up and tell me. I said, "Hey, Mike, what's the appropriate number of people to have on a stream?"
Well, I believe that it's 4 to 6. Friday Night Tights is unique because these guys have been doing this for so long that they don't overtalk each other, and that's the real.
Sorry.
I love that reaction.
Wildly untrue.
Well, I mean, as bad
They're
as it
better.
could be, I mean, it could be a lot worse because
Yes.
if you on almost any other stream on any other given day, there's more than 6 people, they can't stop talking nonstop.
Right.
And so if you want to have, in my opinion, you guys, you know, and the StreamYard doesn't make it easy, by the way, because there's no audio mixing of the audio feeds. What happens is everybody's on a digital signal, and like Jonas was saying, when you get 6 to 10 people or 12 people, those digital feeds, those digital packets of audio data are slamming against each other. And so what would normally be not a problem in an audio mixed environment where you, like when Matt Kadish and the Salty Nerd podcast are in studio and their audio feeds are being mixed together, it doesn't matter that one person starts and the other person finishes over each other as much because the audio is blended together. When you get into a StreamYard digital environment, the over talking turns into an absolute train wreck, and the more people you get, the bigger the train wreck.
Yep.
I have a question too. It kind of coincides with this. I know it's hard to when you're over talking people, but how do you also encourage either your panel or your guests to talk? Because I find sometimes there's a lot of dead air. Nobody knows what to say. And I'm also producing backstage, so I have to then chime in to get at least some of the conversation going. So do you set rules?
Well, I always find this really fascinating, and that's why I look to someone like Matt Kadish for his leadership and vision, because Mr. Kadish knows exactly what to do. I just did that, for example. So when I'm hosting a show, I will just take whatever the person just said, angle it, swing it, and call somebody out so that they have to talk.
Or you have like a list of questions in your hip pocket where, like, if there's dead air, you just chime in and you say, like, "Hey, Jonas J. Campbell, can you answer this question?" Then you, like, you know, ask the question. Just something to keep the conversation flowing, because if you just leave it to the panel's discretion, they are going to run out of steam at a certain point, unless you have someone like Chris Gore on who can just talk forever. Then it's like super easy.
Or
Yes, there
take
are
Matt
some
Kadish,
people-
take your format on Salty Nerd Saturdays, where what you do is you take your questions and you already and you call people out to answer the question, and either everybody answers the same question, or you have kind of a unique nuance where you know you want to get something out of somebody.
It's also part of the host who has to do that as well. It's not just on the producer. So, I mean, it helps to have the questions, but whoever's hosting should be able to hopefully have some interview skills to pull questions and answers out of people. And sometimes it's hard depending on the person, but like what I do on my like poor choices is I listen to what they say and build upon that, because then that builds a conversation.
There is a big difference between producing and hosting. And on Saturdays, originally, Matt Vader was supposed to be the host of that live stream. And when we first started, he made it clear that hosting was not his forte. Like he's very good as the color guy who kind of come in and make some funny jokes and stuff like that. But he had a really hard time running the show. And so I stepped in and kind of took over the hosting position as more of a moderator host as opposed to a personality host. Like, for instance, on Friday Night Tights, Gary is a personality host. He's someone who is just naturally charismatic. He can carry the conversation. He can steer the conversation. For someone like me, who's a little bit drier, I'm just like, okay, here's the topic. Now, person who's more interesting than me, what do you think about this topic? And then I just keep it flowing. And speaking of people who are more interesting than me, I want to just quickly add to this panel, Brian from the Popcast.
What's happening, everyone? I don't know if I'm more interesting, but I definitely yell more. So,
well, you've got a lot of experience in producing live streams. Real quick, why don't you just tell us what live streams do you produce?
Well, I produce our live stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I also produce live streams for a couple nonprofits, religious nonprofits. And we have 2 channels. So often I have to stream to 3 locations, 2 member locations, and our front-facing stream. So it requires 6 screens, a good internet connection, and a lot of background thought processing.
All right. So now I want to throw this back to Jonas because he never really got a chance to finish his thought on this. So you have an ideal number of panelists for your live stream. What happens when you get more than you can handle?
When we have more than we can handle, right now we've got 2 long talkers on the Pro Show, and one of them is WDW Pro, which it's funny to watch between Valiant and Pro who can talk the longest, and then we'll get like, again, I don't want to talk bad about RMB, but if Pro talks in paragraphs, RMB talks in essays. Is
Yes.
amazing, and I say this as a compliment. Like he can go for minutes without taking a breath. So we ended up in a scenario where everybody wanted to talk, and everybody was throwing down all this amazing stuff, and we had our first 4-hour live stream on a 2-hour time slot. So I learned a lot that day. What we end up doing when we have too many people is sometimes I will straight up mute people, or I will go ahead and throw a super chat up on the screen, or I will try to signal in any way that I can that something else is going on other than what this person is talking about. Sometimes I will save something big if we're lucky enough to get a $50 super chat, which is a blessing. Also, when I want to interrupt the conversation, it's a double blessing. I will try to find ways to, as quickly as I can, as subtly as I can, as kindly as I can. You know what? That's actually a really good point. And by the way, it's a lot of trying very subtly to wedge my way in there when everyone won't stop talking. Also to try to pay attention to who's being completely silent on the stream. So.
All right, X-Ray Girl, I know that you and Jonas don't have a lot of time, which is why I kind of want to front load the program with you two so that we can get as much out of you as possible. But there was a situation on Friday Night Tights not too long ago where you had a guest who did something where he exposed a certain part of his body, and it kind of like threw everything for a loop. Everyone was kind of shocked about it. It's one of those chaotic moments that can only happen on a live. And I wanted to know, like, as a producer, like behind the scenes, like, what's going through your head when something just so off the wall happens that completely derails the live stream, and how do you get it back on track?
I'm going to say Gary took care of that one, getting that back on track, because I just was in awe. I did not think anyone would do that, but then again, it is apparently something that this person has maybe had done something like that. Not the same thing before on live stream. So it is, I didn't know who he was before. Gary asked to book it, and I was like, sure. So it wasn't something I was mentally prepared for, let's just say. But to get it back on track, let's just say Gary did get it. I actually think it was Ryan who got it back on track. It helps having some strong personalities that know the game, so to speak.
Well, you know, as the producer being on the live stream as you're producing it and stuff like that, was there anything that you were aware of going on behind the scenes as that was happening that maybe the audience wasn't aware of that was instrumental to kind of just basically like dealing with it?
Garrett is never allowed to go to the bathroom again. Because he's the one that usually takes care of that aspect. My eyes are all over the place on other things. If I was concentrated on that, I think I would have just taken the screen down, like taken him out of the call. But I mean, it is what it is that happened, and we've learned from it, and hopefully that won't happen again.
Hopefully. Has anyone else here on the panel had a situation during a live stream that was just completely unexpected, threw them for a loop, and had to quickly recover from it?
No, aside from like internet issues, not really.
You know, it's funny. I think you probably in starting this conversation, in starting this particular topic, you probably picked the pinnacle moment of having a conservative commentator do an expose right there on the stream. I don't think anybody's going to top that. We have had. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you can go ahead. I'll go after.
We have had instances where someone would come in and either misinterpret something that someone said or take it in the completely worst way. And you try very hard to either soften that or introduce without trying to sound like you're correcting anyone, to try to soften what has been said, at least partially, to keep the conversation going. Right now, we have a live stream where we don't have segments. And this is something that I think that if we ever got into more contentious topics, segments are a great way to say, okay, well, this person is only on for this period of time, So they'll be exiting soon, and then giving them an outro, whether they want one or not.
I had one shocker. I was on the live stream with Valiant Renegade thinking that we were winding down, and that's when we got the notice that Chapek got fired. And then that turned into what had already been a 3-hour live stream turned into 7.5 hours nonstop.
Oh God.
On multiple channels. We just went
Yes.
from Valiant Renegade, we transferred over to Tom's at Midnight's Edge. I mean, it was nuts.
I think that went from Valiant to Midnight's Edge, then back to Valiant, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
It did.
Wow.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because we've all been in situations where, like, we book a guest to come on a live stream, and like, we're familiar with the guest, but maybe like they've never been on a live stream before, whatever. And it turns out that they become problematic in some way, shape, or form. Either they're just not talkative, they don't have a lot to say, or they're too talkative, or they constantly derail the conversation and are just kind of disruptive. So as producers, how do you guys kind of deal with a bad guest?
Tell them to shut up. Yeah. I've had people on where they just kept going and interrupting everyone and getting all mad. And I'm like, all right, shh, stop. Shh. All right, moving on. But it doesn't always work. If it doesn't work, you got to disconnect them.
Oh.
Does anybody set rules for their guests? Because I know I'll go in because our Dames and Dorks, we try not to be a political podcast. So I try to steer away unless it's relatable to what we're talking to. And I put that as a rule. Or if I know the guests swear certain ways, I'm like, please don't do that on here. Like, here's your rules. Just stick to that and that's it.
We have a PG content rating on the Pro Show, and I would say a G rating on TPP. Now, that being said, realistically, it's a little bit higher because most people forget. Tom forgets what stream he's on. Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge. Love him, but he forgets he did it twice today. Or we'll get somebody that I had somebody on that Park Place Live where I had called him and I said, yeah, and by the way, we're keeping it clean. He says, oh yeah, I always keep it clean. And I don't know what the content rating is here, but I imagine the way I handle myself, I'm probably pretty safe to say. And we will not be referring to anyone inserting anything into anything or anyone bending over anything, or, those things don't come up in G-rated films. So I'm just going to point that out. And he's like, oh yeah, no, I never do that. I'm like, okay.
Just real quick. So YouTube's guidelines state that, like, as long as there's no like hard swearing within the first 8 to 30 seconds, you're usually good. I usually like to push that out to a minute. So if you can keep the first minute of your video clean, then you can sprinkle in profanity throughout the course of the rest of the live stream. And as long as it's not too heavy, you're usually okay, at least in terms of like monetization, demonetization, stuff like that. But as long as you can keep that first 30 seconds totally clean, and preferably up to a minute, you're usually good with like the YouTube gods in terms of like, being slapped down. But I do try to tell everyone who's involved in our live streams to show up at least 10 minutes early. And that's not only to deal with technical issues that might arise, but I also like to kind of give them a rundown of how we operate the live stream, especially if they haven't been on our live stream before. So I'll tell them, I'm like, like if we're trying not to use profanity, I'd say, please keep it clean. Don't use any profanity, stuff like that. And just so like everyone has like kind of like a frame of reference of how they're supposed to act. And I also tell them, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give each person a question. Please give them time to address the question before you add to it. So like everyone gets a chance to say, we don't like a lot of crosstalk, blah, blah, blah. So it's just, I think it's good practice as a producer to kind of set the stage for the behavior you want your panelists to follow. And just so there's no surprises. Now, we've had issues in the past where, we would have people who'd come on, we'd not have this like kind of pre-show pep talk, and they would just kind of go all over the place. And it would basically create a poor user experience for the viewers, because as a producer, it's not just about the logistics of doing the live stream. It's also about what the audience is experiencing. And audiences don't like it when shows kind of veer off into, we're just going to read super chats for an hour phase, or we're just going to talk over each other for like good 20 minutes or something like that. They like things a little bit more organized and entertaining. And so you got to keep things kind of moving, and you got to keep things focused. And that's really the host job. And so like, in those rare instances where the host has to become, or the producer has to become the host, it can get a little fuzzy if you don't set the stage before you go live with everyone on board. Anyone have anything to add to that?
I'm realizing I need a host now, or
Well,
a new producer.
I would build on that, Matt, by saying that one of the things that I do is that I'm not worried. Look, I joke around that I'm not a YouTuber, and a lot of that is because I want to keep in mind that my job is to make the host or the channel successful, and I never want any show to be about me. Now, obviously, there's a lot of shows where I have a unique background in tax accounting or Hollywood accounting, whatever, and it comes up and I talk. But it's always about the experience of the show for the viewers, and it's about making sure that happens. Now, sometimes you got to do all the stuff that Jonas talked about. Sometimes you got to control. Sometimes you got to control your host, because it's like herding cats sometimes with some of these. They get on one and they just won't stop, and by the time they repeat themselves the second, third, fourth time, you got to remember it's about the user experience. And I think a great producer always knows what Mr. Kadish was saying, which is that, by the way, trademark #TM on me. I came up with that. But it's what Mr. Kadish says is that you've got to have that watchful eye so that user experience happens. And part of that, by the way, is making sure. I mean, you can't do it on something like Friday Night Tights. So what I'm about to say doesn't apply at all to this show, to that show. But integrating those super chats into the viewer experience, whereby they're not waiting an hour for their super chats to get read, or the super chats get left behind and there's never a square. If there's any way that as a producer you can integrate that super chat into the conversation happening live, that's phenomenal, and that keeps the show going, or literally force a break every 30 to 45 minutes to clear the decks, because by the time you get the next round of super chats on the next topic, the first round that you didn't finish is already irrelevant, and those people are already annoyed. And the fact, here's a little known secret. For smaller channels or shows, and by the way, I'm talking like where there's less than, say, 5,000, 3,000 to 5,000 people showing up for a live stream, you make more money when you read super chats faster, quicker. Above and beyond that, it doesn't really matter, because people are like, whether it's Jeremy or for FFT, people are throwing super chats up to show their support, a lot like waving at a stadium, their banner and their flag, and they're okay with other people in the chat reading their comments. The host doesn't need to. But anything, I'd say any of the live streams that are 2,000, 3,000 people and below, whether it's 100, whether it's 20 people or 100 people, you got to clear them out sooner than later, because that is the point. The point is that they want to say something. They want to yearn out and be part of that panel. And the only way they can do that is by contributing $2, $1, $5, whatever, to show their support and get their sentiment across.
I agree with that.
Real quick, we got a super chat.
Hey, there we go.
Speaking of,
who wasn't scared of Green Rocks for $5. Just catching up, may I suggest the Legion of Memers producer Extra Zero for the next producer stream? He has been a lifesaver and invaluable to our success. Superman, if you just want to DM me on Twitter right now, I can send you the link that you can forward to him if he wants to jump on today. We can certainly do that. So speaking of the small live streams versus the big live streams, X-Ray Girl, you guys have, I think, broken records in our niche, at least in terms of like the most concurrent viewers on live streams. Can you give us a little bit of insight to how you grow a viewership for live streams and the importance of building a community around your live shows?
I think I attribute that mostly to, if not almost all, to Gary. What myself, Perry, and Garrett do is give him more time to do the stuff that people want to see him do. More videos, more live streams, and more consistent live streams too. And consistency on YouTube is really key. If your show doesn't go live at the same time every week, it's like television. People, they like a schedule. They know 4 p.m. Wednesday nights or whatever night it is, I'm going to watch this because this is what I usually do. And so I think the content is all there. They like seeing Gary, all the panelists and whatnot. We just need to tighten things up so that there's more consistency. And then that's what helped it grow. The content is what they're there for. it speaks for itself. They just need the us to make sure it happens.
And speaking of that, so Jonas, Dub has started his channel just for like a year basically, and he's already cultivated such an incredible community based around like his channel and his content and that park place and stuff like that. Can you give us some insights as to like your strategy for building community over on Dub Pro?
Oh, I mean, how much time do you have? Well, I guess the question, how much time do I have? One thing is that consistency is very critical. When YouTube rewards you algorithmically when you release consistently on a schedule, whether that is once a week at the same time, or in our case, 3 times a day at 10:30, 3:30, and 7:30, which reminds me, I've got to get a thumbnail done here in a little bit. For us, the community aspect is that let's say it's members, people who get a membership to the WDW Pro channel. I'm not promoting here. I'm just saying they also get member exclusive videos, and anything that would not be marketable on YouTube becomes a member exclusive video because those are the people that we already know want to hear what we have to say. We're also doing some things off platform, which, I wonder if the words off platform actually are dangerous to say on YouTube, but we're building some things that are not yet announced yet. I don't think they're announced, at least, that will be places to congregate outside of the space. One thing that we want to do is make sure that all of the people that interact with us at this level, and we hope it grows, but while we're at this level, we want to make sure that everyone feels valued for their opinion. We do welcome the dissent, because I know that we're talking about a lot of things that are very emotional to some people. We try very hard to honor anyone who sends us a super chat at this point while we're at the level that we can respond to it. If we ever get past that point, I don't know. I think it's going to break Pro's heart. Valiant's as well, if he ever gets to that phase. I remember a live stream where he needed to stop the stream and then decided to go back and review all of them to make sure. And I mean, this was like a 70 super chat live stream. So valuing people's opinions, consistency, and robust membership content. And also there was a period where we kind of had to stop Pro. He was doing commercials for anyone that was at a certain membership level, and he would play them sometimes 3 times a stream. I don't recommend that because I'm a producer, and I hate it when he stops the stream, but they were kind of fun, and a lot of people really dug it, especially right when we started memberships.
You said something there that kind of caught my interest, which was you take something that's not marketable and give it to members. Can you define what isn't marketable on YouTube?
Marketable. I mean, if we're talking YouTube strategy, YouTube is the second largest search engine on the internet. It's Google, then YouTube, and then something else that you would actually call a search engine. So when you're creating a video, you are generally going for something that has a good title and thumbnail combo, the title being something searchable. And when we do member content, it might be something that's a little slower, a little less sexy, a little less SEO driven. So right now we've got a series called The Genre Guys, where a guy we're calling Lou Wasserman's Ghost. I cannot reveal who he is, but he's worked on something that you have all heard of that is amazing. So we've got this guy who has worked in Hollywood for many decades, and him and a couple other guys are going over different genres and just talking about fun stuff. So it's kind of a secondary podcast that doesn't have to be that polished. Or we're doing interviews with our members, long form interviews with our members, things that it's like people aren't showing up to the WDW Pro channel for an interview with random. I was going to put my name in there, but I actually think there's some curiosity about who in the world I am, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. Some random member that everybody gets to see them in the chat. And it's an opportunity for us to get to know them, to show them value, and for the community to put faces with names and personalities with names. So it's a lot of fun for us, but it's also not something that we would release a video that would be like, hey, and if I said their name, I would be insulting them. But an interview with random member number 12, but he's somebody that we actually like and we pay attention to what he says.
X-Ray Girl, I wanted to ask, what's the promotional strategy behind each one of the live streams you produce? How do you guys make people aware of it, and how do you get people to show up? And to a certain extent, how do you get people to watch the replays?
Okay, so topics wise, Lady Gravemaster sets up a bunch of articles that look interesting. So we find topics that way. And then I always, or Garrett, sets up the stream half an hour prior to, because you always get that 30-minute like notification on YouTube.
Mhm.
So you have to make sure your live stream is up and public before then. And then we usually tweet between like a 15-30 minute window as well on top of that. So Facebook, Minds, Gab, Twitter, and yeah. And then again, of course, the consistency as well on top of that. Usually that's the best way to kind of let people know. And the FNT and Real BBC, due to algorithmic things, the views are enough to stay up on YouTube, which is great. And then people have been so used to either having the unlisted nooner or going to Nerdrotic Live. Trying to keep that the same helps people know where to go. It is like hurting the chat is like hurting cats as well. You know, they like a schedule as well. They like to know what's going to happen. So, yeah.
Can I ask you a question, X-Ray Girl?
Yeah,
What
of
is
course.
what is the best time to schedule your live stream? Should you do it same day or is
It doesn't
doing it a
matter
week
as
early
long as it's
too
public
early?
before 30 minutes beforehand, in my opinion, but that's just me. I like to
Yeah.
schedule a lot of things ahead and then
Yeah. I
unlist
do it the
it.
night before, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually recommend doing it at least 24 hours ahead of when it's scheduled to go live. That just gives you a little bit more time to kind of get your thumbnail set, confirm with your guests, stuff like that. So if I know that we're doing a live stream on Tuesday and Saturdays, I'll do the prep for the Tuesday live stream on Monday and the prep for the Saturday live stream on Friday, and get it out there at least 24 to 18 hours, 12 hours ahead of time, something like that. And that's usually like a good amount of time, because like X-Ray Girl said, until 30 minutes ahead of when the stream is supposed to start, YouTube doesn't really start pushing that out into people's homepage feeds and stuff like that.
Not really. Yeah.
But it's helpful to have it out of the way.
The only note I would put there is if you have multiple live streams in close succession, I try to make sure that we only have one live stream tile on the channel for an upcoming live stream at a time.
Oh.
There's somebody that I love that he schedules all 6 for the week out at one time, and I love him to death, but don't do that.
Culture Casino.
Yeah,
Yes,
he does do that.
I love
On
you,
your
Culture. If
feed,
you're hearing
it's just
this.
like all of it. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, here's a nifty little behind the curtain thing that I'm sure everyone on the panel knows, but people watching might not. So YouTube has an algorithm for each traffic source. So for your homepage feed, it has an algorithm. For the suggested feed, it has an algorithm. For the search feed, it has an algorithm. And for the live feed, it has its own algorithm. And it's completely separate from all the other algorithms the way it works. Now, YouTube has a recency bias, which means that it wants the most current stuff out there to be pushed out to viewers because it views newer stuff as more relevant. And so if you have a live stream on your channel, right, and you schedule more than one live stream, it's going to basically forget about the earlier live streams that you scheduled and only push the one that's going to be the most recent. So you're actually doing yourself a disservice if you're doing more than one live stream in a day. What you need to do is, if you have a separate channel for each live stream you do, that way you can schedule all your live streams to go out ahead of time, and they're not stepping on each other in the live algorithm. So it's best to let that stuff breathe. So if you have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, and you schedule your live stream on Sunday for the Monday live stream, and then that goes live, and then you schedule Tuesday for the Wednesday live stream, and then that goes live. Once it goes live, the other one is going to stop being recommended by YouTube, pushed out to users. So it always is beneficial to let your live streams breathe a little bit before you schedule the next one. And if you have more than one live stream, especially like daily, like if you're doing 3 live streams a day, or you're doing live stream one day after the other, it would be more interesting. It'd be safer if you had different channels for the different live streams, just so you weren't stepping on each other. So that's just a little bit inside baseball into how YouTube works. But just be careful about scheduling too much stuff in one day or right after the other, because basically the previous live stream or the previous video that you publish might get a lot more views and a lot more exposure if you weren't scheduling the new one so closely after it. Right? Does that make sense?
That
And
makes
then
a
you
lot of
also
sense.
have to release your videos a little bit away from your live streams as well.
We have that problem with Midnight's Edge all the freaking time. But yeah, and it's tough because we'll get complaints. I'll get complaints directly. Hey, can you talk to Tom or Andre? We can't find the last live stream. Well, that's because we had to hide it, privatize it, and then, clip it up and then put it on our clips channel. Because if we've got a big video that Andre and Tom have worked forever on, or any one of our other editors on the channel, like Pablo,
I'm gonna give something before I go because I'm gonna have to go soon. Hi, boss says YouTube has a term known as notification fatigue. It's bad to spam. That's what it's called. Live stream audience is also different from the video audience.
Yeah, they are way different.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're learning that.
Oh my, we'll do a live stream and then somebody say, why did you just clip the live stream? Well, the live stream got 2.3 thousand viewers and then the clip got 15,000 viewers all within 6 hours. So obviously a completely different audience.
Right.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why clips are so kind of important to channel growth. A lot of the big live streams will have like a separate channel for like just clips. At least I should say podcasts, because podcasts and live streams are kind of synonymous on YouTube. And the clips will get the big exposure, but then they'll also inform people about the long form live streams and send the people who are interested to viewing that over to the live stream channel. So the clip strategy is actually like really important. X-Ray Girl, before you get out of here, can you give us an idea of like how you determine what clips to pull from the live streams and the strategy for putting them out?
That is Perry's job, but the clips that he pulls out are from my notes on live streams that I make, and he puts that on Nerdrotic Daily. So
Right on.
it's a bit different because I know people clip it and put it on their own channel, and it seems to be working for Nerdrotic's like 3 channels to do it that way, as well as taking down a live stream if it's not doing as well as like your other videos and putting it on a live channel, post live, which I'm learning I should be doing too.
So can somebody point out what is the strategy there with putting an entire live stream onto a live archive channel? Is that successful for anyone?
I've never even tried it. I always cut them up.
So Jonas, I think that the strategy there is like, let's say you have a main channel where you're doing live streams and you're doing like more
Videos.
20 to 15 minute video, like essay type stuff. What happens is that YouTube basically looks at your audience based off of like watch time. So the more people watch to the end of your video, the more YouTube will push it out. And when you have a live stream that's like maybe like 2 hours long, it's harder to get full watch time on those really long form videos than it is on like the 15 to 20 minute videos. And so the concept here is, because you're not doing a separate dedicated live stream YouTube channel, what you want to do is you want to take those longer videos off of your main channel that has more of like the 20 to 15 minute video essay stuff on it and put it on a channel more conducive to that type of stuff. Now, I personally feel that that's a little bit backwards, but because I do think that you should have like a channel dedicated to live streaming and then put clips on like the main channel that has like the 15 to 20 minute watch time stuff. But I've heard it work both ways. So that's the strategy behind it. But X-Ray Girl, I know you gotta get out of here. Thank you so much
Yes.
for coming on the live
Thank
stream today and
you.
sharing your insights with us. Where can
It was
people
lovely
find more of
chatting.
you?
I'll be on Nerderotics channel, of course, doing my producing stuff, and you can find me on Extra Girl, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, Locals, Twitch, all them places, as well as Poor Choices, which we have Dadcast tonight, where I'm gonna be interviewing with Tugs, Alan Ing. So yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
And one more thing, as a producer, I'm trying to be better about this. Watch as many live streams about the content you are producing, because keeping yourself up to date, and this is mostly for me because I'm a normie and I don't keep up with this, typically 3 years ago, it's good to be in the know so you understand the dynamics.
Great advice.
Yeah.
So,
Say hi to Mark for us, X-Ray Girl.
of course. All right. Thank you guys. It was nice meeting you all. Thank you so much
Nice to meet
for
you.
having me on here. This was great. And I hope people learned from this. I hope.
Hopefully.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
All right. X-Ray Girl actually mentioned something very interesting on there, which is that if you ever want to be good at something, you also have to be like a student of something, right? And I think it's interesting to point out that, like, if you want to produce live streams or you want to create a successful live stream, you kind of have to watch other live streams, right? Not just, the random live stream. You got to watch live streams in your niche, right? And you got to look and see, okay, what are they doing? What's working with them? How can I do my own spin on that type of thing? So I wanted to just ask the panel in general, like, what live streams do you watch that you've actually learned something from?
I watch the Salty Nerd Show every Tuesday.
Man, that was my answer.
I knew it was. I had to beat you to the punch. I also I watch Midnight's Edge sometimes. I watch Culture every morning. He's fun. He's digestible.
Culture is great. He's also a one-man show, which is amazing to witness.
I also learned by being a guest too. So I've made the rounds on a lot of people's live streams. So being a guest on it too gives me a little bit of insight of how people do things and lets me kind of up the game, especially for Dames and Dork.
All right, real quick, we've got a super chat from Lover of Green for $5. My favorite live show is Cobra Cast from Geeks and Gamers. Jeremy does a great job answering the dozens of super chats. Just glad I could represent the 199. Thank you, Lover of Green. Appreciate that. Yeah, we talked a little bit about hosts. Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers is a freaking machine. Like, he's so professional, not just in the sense that he's a good, charismatic host, but he's also doing a lot of producing duties as he's hosting stuff, right? Especially for like the daily morning shows where it's just like him and like one other person. Mike, do you have any insight into like how Geeks and Gamers runs their live streams?
I don't, other than I've been watching. I think I'm the longest running member since they've had memberships. So I've watched them, but I've never ran any of their shows. But I've watched Jeremy evolve, and I think he's an interesting case study because I would liken him to be like almost like a Heisman Trophy YouTuber. Like, he had a lot of talent when he got started. And see, the thing about Jeremy is that if any of us that were with him, like say 6-7 years ago, he's the same person, but his channel and his presence, and obviously Geeks and Gamers, is much bigger than what originally started. And I think a key testament to that has to do with the link between being that amazing host and as you're producing, you're getting to know your community. Jeremy has a phenomenal ability to use StreamYard, uses online tools to engage with the chat as if he were literally in a town hall. And once upon a time, there might have been 100, 200. Now there could be thousands of people on any given Cobra Cast. He's still that same amazingly great guy. And I think what's helped him be so successful is that what he's done is he's built up his capacity to be that interface between himself and the community. Everyone feels connected. The 199 is merely the most recent name of the outgrowth of what he's always had, which has to do with that connectivity, that connective tissue with the community.
Hey, Mike, I got to jump in here real quick. Brian actually has to hop off.
Sorry, guys.
Hopefully Shane can hop on.
I'm hoping that too. Yeah, I'm sorry to come and just run real quick. My kid's ride just fell through, and I got to run.
It's okay.
Is there any words of wisdom you want to leave with?
I can only say that consistency is like the most important thing for streaming. Like, hands down, the most important thing is that you keep to your schedule, you start on time or as close to it as possible, and you do it. Like, if it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You don't all of a sudden just cancel one, don't come back. We've done that. We've been doing it for a while. And every time we take a break, we come back and it's like starting over again. So you got to be consistent. And I like what X-Ray Girl said, like consistently also look at what other people are doing and understand your content. Like, don't try to wing it. Like, I've done that a couple of times where I'm like reading an article for the first time. That's not a good idea. Especially if the audience knows more than you, it's going to show. So you need to be aware of your content and be consistent. And that's my only thought process.
Yeah, a little bit of pre-production. Real quick before you go again, Brian, any recommendations on software for streaming? Because I know you've used OBS Ninja, you've used OBS, you've used StreamYards. What's your advice on that aspect?
Yeah, I've used Streamlabs. I've used every version of OBS, every clone. And I got to say, OBS proper, if you can handle it, is the way to go. The original OBS. StreamYards is cool if you're a Twitch streamer, but if you're on YouTube, 90% of the additional tools that they provide aren't applicable to you. So I use OBS proper, and I use VDO to bring my guest in. And the great thing about VDO is that it's basically a browser. You can control the bit rate. So you can actually, if you got a decent connection, you can pop the bit rate up to like 5K, and the quality of their camera is going to be the same, whatever they can provide you versus whatever StreamYards can provide you at the time. Also, you can control the audio that way too. You can specify where their audio is going to go. You can record your track. Like if you're recording and streaming, you can record every single person as an individual audio stream in real time. And you can also send it. You can open multiple instances of OBS proper with like the / command. And you can have like 4 versions up, and they can be streaming to 4 different places if you get that. That's what I do if you're doing that much. But OBS proper gives you the most. It's the hardest one to use. Streamlabs is easier. StreamYards is way easier, but you have the most options. And to be fair, it does get daunting. I have 3 stream decks. I literally need 3. I should have just gotten one big one. Jesus, I'm cheap. I have 3 stream decks. I have like literally 300 scenes. Like I have a scene for everything. I have a scene for when it's just me. I have a stream for when it's me and Shane. A stream for when it's me, Shane, and the Chrome, the browser, or it's this screen or that screen. I even have a screen, a different scene when one of us is just going to drop our camera for a second, or if we're running 2 different windows. But when you set all that up and you have your deck in front of you, it's just like operating a keyboard. And if you play video games, if you play any MMO, like this is like cakewalk. You'll figure it out. It's the same concept. And I have 3 stream decks and a G13, and that's the way I'm able to manage all those. It's having all those buttons.
Thanks, Brian. Go pick up your kid.
Later, guys. Love you. Bye.
And Jonas, I know that you have to get running. So were there any final words of wisdom you wanted to share before you clocked off?
No, this has been amazing, and I wish that I could stay for the whole thing. I got an obligation that I best not say no to, and also Brian is my dad, and he's almost here to pick me up, so I'm going to have to go for that. This is other than watching other streams. It's a funny thing. I used to watch a lot more streams, and I'm lucky enough that when I comment on any of the streams that I used to watch last year, they invite me on, which is an amazing honor. So this would be my advice to anyone who is in this space. Never take for granted that you get to wrangle all of these crazy people. It may be drinking from the fire hose, but you're still getting to drink. This is an amazing job. It's a crazy job. There's a lot of fun stories, but the fact that we get to have these conversations and talk to each other, and that I get to sit here and talk with Matt Kadish and Mexican Iron Man and Nadia, and that I got to meet X-Ray Girl, and that now I get to know that Brian is a Stream Deck genius. This is such an honor to me, and such a fun job. So thank you so much for having me on that wistful note. But yeah. Oh, and by the way, I'm at Jonas J. Campbell on Twitter. If anybody has any questions, you can ask me. But why would you ask me when you got Mexican Iron Man and Matt Kadish here? So,
Indeed.
And Nadia.
And thanks for being on, Jonas. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'll be listening as soon as I can hit that replay.
It was nice to meet you, Jonas.
All right, guys, real quick, we got a super chat of 199 from David Nelson. Thanks for the entertainment from the 199 Legion. Yes, we've actually still got an hour to go, guys, and I'm going to really
want to build on something Nadia was talking about earlier. She made me think of something that when she was talking about appearing on other shows, that's also awesome to see how badly produced other shows or how well produced other shows can be, not just in terms of the content, but I've been on some real train wrecks. And as a producer, it's just driven me absolutely nuts
Same. It
right,
also
Nadia?
makes me realize how to treat guests and the panels, because I've been on some train wrecks where I'll never want to go back on to where I look forward to getting the invite each week to being on, and it also teaches me, like, this is how I want my guests to feel. This is not how I want my guests to feel when I'm inviting them on the streams.
Yeah, Mike, it's funny because so my co-hosts always give me a hard time for my anal retentive planning, where it's like, okay, like we need to schedule this stuff. Here are the links to the topics we're going to be talking about beforehand, blah, blah, blah. And then they go on other people's live streams that don't have that level of organization. And they're just like, Kadish, we won't say this publicly, but we're so glad we have someone like you to run our live streams. Because it isn't, it is like a second job, right? There is an art to it. And I think we've all been on other live streams where we're just like, how are these people operating? Because they're just so disorganized. They're so fly by the seat of their pants. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what to talk about. It's just kind of like, it's almost like being on a Zoom call. Yep. And that's not fun, right?
You are amazing, and you have a very similar style to me. If I'm producing a show and I have a host and a creator that's open to letting me do what you do with what you do on Saturdays, that's how I do it. You send the links out, give everybody their homework, and then when they show up, you're able to have an amazing experience. That's why you are Mr. Kadish and not Kadish.
But yeah, and I've been fortunate enough that I've learned from him too, coming in, because I'll be like, how do I deal with a panel that's not getting along? How do I deal with, what do I do? Do I send them topics? How many days ahead of time? So I'm very fortunate to have been taken under the salty wing and being able to see kind of the behind the scenes as I'm growing as a producer myself.
I think for the people watching this live stream, either live or on the replay, I think for me, one of the things that I've noticed over the past year is that the bar has gotten so much higher now than it was during COVID. During COVID, anybody could turn on StreamYards, create a YouTube channel, and just talk, and people would listen and what. The landscape of YouTube, and YouTube is a TV station, not a radio station. I am a big proponent. I understand that some people want to be anonymous for whatever their reasons are. My good brother Doomcock, my friend WDW Pro, Jonas, and others. They want this anonymity, but I seem to, in my opinion, cameras on is the way to go. Unless you have a compelling reason towards anonymity, I believe that this is a TV station. YouTube is literally a TV station, not a radio station. And, if you're going to do a podcast where no one sees you, well, then you can do that, I guess, on Apple Podcasts. But even the competitive bar there is even more excruciating. Because everybody's turning to this thing. I mean, who would have thought 5 years ago that someone like Megyn Kelly, for example, or Tucker Carlson, would be using social media as their direct media delivery vehicle, and that's now happened. And I think that's one of the reasons, Matt, the way you've run your show, your live stream on Saturday, it has grown significantly, both in various regards. I'm going to give you a huge compliment. You're going to take it. Number one is that the quality of your guests has escalated. The level of discourse and discussion in breadth and depth has become more broad-based and more profound and deep. And number three is your super chat and the financial support. I remember way back in the beginning of those first Saturday shows, there was hardly anyone donating. And over time, you've picked up a cadre of people that contribute regularly and some that contribute super significantly. And that loyalty is a testament to your excellent producer skills.
Thank you. Yeah, you did touch on something interesting, which is I think me and Vader talk about this all the time, which is we don't like nipple streams. And what we mean by that is when you have your camera off, it's the talking nipple, right? And if I'm ever looking at a live stream and more than half of the panelists are talking nipples, I kind of tune out because it's hard to connect to the people on the stream when they just look like this the entire time, right?
Well, I think here's the thing that I'm going to tell those listening. I'm going to be really harsh in the way I say this, is that when you have a live stream where it's a bunch of talking nipples, I'm going to build on what you just said. That becomes a live stream where you're doing dishes, where you're doing laundry, you're maybe in the gym, but you're not really watching or paying attention. And you're not going to be that much engaged. And if you're not engaged, if you don't have an audience that's engaged, you're not going to get as many big super chats as often as you otherwise would, in my opinion. In my experience.
Speaking of engaged, I got to give a big shout out to WG for $100 because you're low on eggnog. Merry Christmas.
WG,
thank
for
you.
that donation, you get the sombrero of appreciation.
And also, you're going to be getting a $100 member shout out on the live streams going forward. Thank you so much for that. And not only did he super chat us $100, but he also gifted 5 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships. Thank you so much, WG. I know that the chat really appreciates that. And we also have Late Night with Cap JT Gunn for $5. Hey, everybody. I usually stick with one guest and one main topic, but just having fun is the goal on my show. That's perfectly fine as long as you have a goal and you stick to it. Then David Nelson for $1.99. Cameras on or off don't matter if the content is good. Well, it matters a little bit. I'll say that.
Yeah. I would say with Daves and Dorks, I made it a rule right off the bat. I was like, my preference is, unless you're sick, everybody's cameras on, because it's also body language, your facial expressions. People also like to see what's in your background. There's a lot more, I think, relatability when your cameras are on versus the talking nipple.
Hey, Nadia, also on your show with everybody's camera on, did you notice, this is what I think, but I want to see what you think. Don't you think there tends to be less over talking? Like people can sort of more cue off of each other and they kind of...
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you're able to watch somebody talk, and because there have been times, technical issues, a couple of us have had to have cameras off, but then you don't know when people are finishing their thoughts. I myself, I talk with my hands a lot. So when I'm conveying, my group can tell, like, if my hands are down, that means I'm done with my thought. There's a lot of cues, and you miss that with the talking nipple.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's something to be said about being able to see the people who are talking on the live stream. It helps create a sense of connection with the community, with the people who are there in chat, with the people who watch, that is just absent with the talking nipple stuff. Now, sometimes people can make it work for them. I know Mahler and Doomcock and guys like that, they never have their cameras on. It's always like, a still image of some type, which is fine. Like, it works for them. But overall, if it's just like the talking nipples of like 10 different screens on the screen at the same time, it loses something, in my opinion. But I want to get back to this idea of streaming on YouTube, because there are other streaming networks out there like Twitch, for example. But streaming on Twitch is a very different beast than streaming on YouTube. So a lot of live stream tactics are kind of platform specific. If you want to grow on YouTube as a live streamer and you want to create a community and stuff like that, you really have to do the stuff that works on YouTube. And that's not necessarily the stuff that works on Twitch. Twitch is more gaming oriented, even though they've kind of branched out into IRL stuff. For the most part, 90% of the audience is there for video games. And streaming video games is very different than kind of streaming shows, kind of like what we have here on YouTube. On YouTube, I feel like it's a lot more varied in terms of like what you can live stream and what people will tune in for, as opposed to something like Twitch. And so YouTube has to be kind of treated a little bit differently in terms of like, okay, I'm focusing on live streaming on YouTube as opposed to Twitch, because we've had some big Twitch streamers come over to YouTube and try to do what they were doing on Twitch and having a hard time making it work. I think Moist Critical, for the most part, had a tough time adapting his Twitch style to YouTube, and he wasn't too happy with it, which is when Twitch dropped the multi-streaming stuff, he moved back to Twitch to multi-stream to YouTube. But then you have someone like Dr. Disrespect, who brought over his format and completely makes it work on YouTube, right? But for people who aren't doing gaming streams, if they're doing more of like a talk show format or a panel format or something like that, it helps to know kind of like how YouTube operates, because I think you can get a bigger audience on YouTube for that type of show than you could on a place like Twitch or even Rumble. What do you guys think of that?
I don't have a lot of experience on various platforms. I've only produced on YouTube. And what I have done, however, is told people that want to offer a variety of different media experiences to tailor their offerings to that. So, for example, if you have a creator that wants to do gaming stuff, the last thing I'm going to let them do is put that gaming stuff on their channel where they're already doing live streams or, say, formatted, produced videos of 3 to 8 minutes. I'll say, okay, go build your gaming audience over there and go be a gamer and do Twitch and blow it up and go get a huge sub count. Or, for example, here's another example. I have had this recently where I've had someone come to me and say, hey, I want to do a lot of political stuff. I'm like, all right, well, that's what your Rumble presence is going to be about, because then we don't have to worry about what the YouTube algorithm or the censoring gods may or may not do to whatever that channel has already built, because the channel could have built itself, train the algorithm a certain way. The audience is used to a certain, say, culture war or produce video content, and now you're going to get political. Well, that's going to skew things tremendously. And so I'm like, all right, since you have a Rumble channel, make your offering there, let people aware. And so basically what I try to encourage these creators to do is I understand your community and who it is who's there and what is it that they want out of you. And if they want things out of you that could be multifaceted, there are some creators who are simultaneously a great gaming offer great gaming presentation. They're great on political culture war stuff, and they happen to know a lot about, maybe some area of nerddom, or some other thing that some other topic they might do videos on. I tell them, I say, all right, well, this is where we're going to push. All right, you should go over here and go do Twitch stuff, and you should go here and produce and release these videos, and you're going to go here and do your Rumble stuff over there, and understand that your community needs to understand what it is that you're about and where to find you, because at the end of the day, that's what this is about. And I think there's a lot of creators that are introverts and nerd introverts, and they think, well, if I build it, they will come, meaning like, if I just be me, they will come. Not necessarily. You've got to not only be you and find ways to attract people to find you, but you also have to make sure that what you're delivering is getting to those audiences that Kadish was talking about moments ago, and where they're going to be. I know myself, anything that's of a political content, I default to Rumble. There's the Future Conflict podcast is over there. Crowder's over there. That's where I'm going to be for all that hardcore political stuff. And heck, even at Midnight's Edge, Andre made the decision a while back that whatever we might do that might be more, say, World Economic Forum or BlackRock Financial, or potentially not friendly to YouTube, is going to be over there. And that's we have to understand how these delivery mediums do and don't offer people an opportunity to find what they're looking for.
So would you recommend, because right now I'm trying to stream gaming as well, to just build that following on Twitch versus trying to, because what I do is I stream on both YouTube and Twitch at the same time when I'm playing games.
Well, I think you can. Some people have the philosophy that I'm just going to simulcast. The only thing that's a challenge to that, and Kadish can speak a bit more to this than even I can, but when you have this channel on YouTube, you are at war with the algorithm, and you're at war actually with multiple algorithms, depending on what you put on that channel. Now, if you have a couple different channels, well, that's different, but you still have the same rules still apply, where you're basically fighting algorithms in order for your channel to find subs, get monetized, so that then you can bring money in with memberships and super chats. And so all I'm trying to say is that if you've only got one channel, you don't want to clog it down with 2 or 3 things that are really kind of diametrically opposed, because it'll suppress that channel, because the algorithm's not going to know what to do with you, as well as if you had a gaming channel and a main channel per se.
Yeah,
Okay.
so like simul streaming, in my opinion, is a big waste of time.
I agree.
Because you got to understand every platform has its own ecosystem. And if you want to grow on the platform, you have to appeal within that ecosystem. So if you're on Twitch, you need to focus on growing on Twitch, and simul streaming to YouTube isn't going to help you also grow on YouTube or drive people to Twitch, because people on YouTube like YouTube. Otherwise they'd be on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with X or Twix. They're trying to get into more video stuff. Same thing with Rumble. Simul streaming to Rumble, it's okay, but the people on Rumble are on Rumble, and the people who are on YouTube are on YouTube, and they're there for a reason. So I personally don't like simul streaming as a strategy. It's better if you're going all in on YouTube, focus on growing on YouTube, right? If you're going all in on Rumble, focus growing on Rumble. If you're going all in on Twitch, focus on growing on Twitch. And there's a rule of thumb that Mike kind of brought up or touched on, which is if you're going for a different audience, put it on a different channel. A good example of this is Jeremy with his Geeks and Gamers and political stuff. So when he gets political, it's on his D-Day Cobra channel. When it's about gaming and pop culture and stuff like that, it's on his Geeks and Gamers channel. And that's very deliberate, because YouTube, like Mike said, YouTube is about finding an audience for your content, whether it be live streams or videos or whatever. So the idea here is that if you're focusing on one type of audience, whether it be like for movies and TV, pop culture, Hollywood industry news, like whatever, keep it on one channel. But if you're going to go political, start a different channel because there's a different audience for that political stuff. If you want to go gaming, start a gaming channel because there's a different audience for the gaming stuff. And as long as there's a different audience for the content you're making or the live stream you're producing, it should be on its own channel. Otherwise,
even if you're small, like Inside All Day, we're a small channel still.
Especially if you're small.
Especially if you're small.
Okay.
Yeah, because
in a sense, like separating it to its categories.
If you're a variety channel where you're doing gaming and pop culture and politics or like whatever the case may be, and you're small, it doesn't matter if you're small or big. What happens is YouTube doesn't know who to serve your content out to based off of like the vast variety of stuff that you're touching on. YouTube likes things nice and orderly. And so like if you stay in your lane, YouTube will eventually figure out what audience to push your stuff out to. So you need to be thinking about who your audience is. And if they're a different audience from what you're currently doing, you need to start a separate channel to cater to that audience. Otherwise, you're just going to grow very slowly and painfully. And you might even give up because you might feel like you're wasting your time.
Yeah, that's what we're experiencing right now. We've grown, but we're not where we would like to be. But we also have different types of content on our channel, but it all umbrellas under pop culture in a way. So we have our recorded reviews, we have our live streams, and now we're having a D&D live stream, and I play gaming on it too. So to separate it would be managing a lot.
Like for your D&D stuff, your D&D stuff should be on a different channel.
Okay.
Because you know there's a D&D audience out there, and then there's the pop culture audience, and they're not all D&D people.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get crossover there, the D&D people might not be interested in the pop culture stuff, and the pop culture people might not be interested in the D&D stuff. And so when YouTube starts pushing out new content, it sees that people aren't clicking or people aren't watching all the way through or whatever, and so all the videos on your channel just kind of like fall, like they just kind of drop like a dud. Right off the bat. So it's better if you have a different audience, like a D&D audience, that you have a separate channel just for that audience, as opposed to trying to put everything on one channel. It just doesn't work.
Okay.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about what Brian touched on before he left, which is the type of software that you want to base your live streaming around. Now, there are a lot of thoughts out there about this. Brian has always been very big on OBS and variants of that and making things as custom as possible. I'm a big fan of StreamYards.
Me too.
Right? I love StreamYards.
Me too.
You guys remember, Nadia might not remember this, but back in the day, everyone used Google Hangouts.
That's how I got started. That's how I got started.
No.
And Google made the terrible decision to basically sunset that feature just out of the blue. They're just like, screw it. Like, we don't want to.
Yeah, we're turning it off next week.
Yeah. And if they had just waited till COVID era, like, it could have gone like nuclear. But regardless, so once Google Hangouts kind of shut its doors, I can remember I discovered this little website. It was called StreamYards. And I instantly messaged like Gary and Jeremy and the Midnight's Edge guys, and all these guys I was friends with who used Google Hangouts for their live streams. I was like, hey guys, I found this great alternative. Check it out. And now it's like the industry standard for live streaming on YouTube. And the reason why it's industry standard is simply because it's easy. It's browser based. You don't have to download any software. You send out a link, people can join in. But the thing I really like about StreamYards is that it keeps evolving over time and adding new features and becoming a lot more user friendly and economical. Now we pay for the for like the full bucket creator package. So we can have team members on there, which allows multiple people to kind of help produce the show behind the scenes. It calls up super chats, it's integrated membership, chats and gifted memberships and all this other stuff that really helps in community building and things of that nature. But here's the one thing that a lot of people might not know about StreamYards that they just introduced that is really super helpful. And we talked a little bit with X-Ray Girl about how she makes notes during live streams to pull clips from. And what I've started doing, so I used to have this system where I would have like a pop-out window for YouTube Live, and they have like a little bookmark button there. And so throughout the stream, whenever we switch topics or whenever something interesting happens, I'll drop a bookmark via YouTube. And then once the stream's over, you go to like the editing tab in your YouTube studio, and you can see all the bookmarks. You can basically get the time codes of all like the big moments or like the topic switches, right? And this helps pulling clips super, super easy. But StreamYard just introduced that very same feature. And so throughout a live stream, when you hit the B button, StreamYard drops a bookmark. And then once the stream is over, you can actually go into your saved videos and you can see the time codes for all the bookmarks that you dropped. And if you want to, you can even use StreamYard for people who don't have like a professional editor or know-how on how to edit. You can use StreamYard to actually like cut those clips out into their own thing. So StreamYard has just made pulling highlights and clips so much easier than any other software, even like OBS. And that's one of the reasons why I like using StreamYard, because number one, there's a free version of it. So if you don't want to spend money, you can just use the free version. But if you pony up like $25 a month or something like that, you can get all these great features. You can have like a team to work on it with you. And growing your live stream really is about pulling clips and targeting the clips towards the audience you want to watch your live stream. And the minute you can start getting more of those to come over, that's when your stream starts really to grow. So Mike, what advice do you have for people who want to start, figuring out how to pull clips or how to edit their live streams or how to get more people to their live streams?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think one of the things is you've got to get these clips out there so that people have an appetizer to come and enjoy the full buffet of the experience that the live stream has to offer. It is a phenomenally great tool to do that. I haven't used StreamYard to do that. I have done the other trick that you taught me a few months ago, which was about the dropping the bookmarks on the live stream. We also have timestamps. And the other thing too about that is like, look, people, if you're going to drop those clips, you got to just tell yourself that you're like, okay, I get it. 2 to 4 hours have gone by. You're exhausted from your live stream. You're probably hungry. Well, guess what? You got to go back to work and go and cut those and get them out ASAP while that live stream is still fresh. Because once you drop those clips a week, 3 days later, 5 days later, a week later, that I see some channels do, I'm like, wait a minute, didn't they talk about this like 2 weeks ago? And it probably was just last Sunday, but it feels like 2 weeks ago because YouTube is moving like this, like that. And so you've got to turn around and chop that thing up and get those things out. It's basically like live streams are not like wine. They don't get better with time. They are like milk. They spoil. So you either harvest and enjoy that milk and offer it out to the people in your community, or you might as well let it go and just say, oh, it was for my ego and my vanity. We had a good time. We had, 20 people or 200 people or 2,000 people watch it, but now it's dead and gone because guess what? The next set of topics are gone and out. I want to add 2 more things. I've helped about live streaming. There are certain channels, I mentioned one of them, Valiant Renegade, where I encouraged him to just drop videos and not live stream for a year. And I believe that paid off. There's another channel I've been the producer of, because you can be a producer of a show. I'm a producer of channels, not necessarily always a producer of live streams. There are channels that I produce live streams for, but I'm also a producer of certain channels. Like I consider myself a producer of, say, for example, Echo Base Network, when I was there, Valiant Renegade. Lately, it's George Molo. George and I have been working together since October of last year, or a year ago, not this year, but a year ago. And I've been working with him on his channel. We're finally going to go live with our first live stream at January 6th. But with George, I told him I didn't want him going live till he got to 100,000 subs. And I told him, look, I'm a volunteer producer. You don't pay me, but I'll quit if you go live before then, because I knew that if he started going live back at 10 or 20 or 30,000 subs, it would grow to his channel. And I just asked him point blank, what's the most important thing to you? Is it going live and feeling good and getting a little bit of cash? Or is that you want to be a big channel? It's like, I want to be a big channel. I'm like, all right. And what we're going to do is we're going to release 1 or 2 videos a week, every week at the same day, at the same time, so that the algorithm knows that we drop at least one of those videos Sunday at 9 in the morning. And we're not going to go live till we get to 100,000 subs. In fact, after talking about it, he and I agreed 108, because at 103, sometimes YouTube rolls it back and they take 2,000 or 3,000 subs away from you when you get to 100,000. Fun fact, I've seen it happen multiple times. So as I'm more of a producer of channels as much as or more than I am a producer of live streams. And I really want to encourage people that understand what you want and why you want it and work towards that, whatever that thing is. If you don't care, there's some channels that I work with, they don't give a shit if they ever hit 100,000 subs. Well, then, there's different advice for those guys, completely different advice. But I really want to encourage people to understand the impact. Like, are you going to produce videos or are you going to do live streams? And listen to what Matt said at the top of the hour, last hour, which is, what did he say? Which is consistency is key. Live stream at the same day, at the same time, all the time. Drop your videos on the same day, at the same time, all the time. If you do it half-assedly, then expect half-assed results to come back your way.
Indeed. And real quick, we got a super chat from David Nelson for 199. Watching everyone here made me finish my TTRPG book.
Mike, I'll talk off air, but I would love for you to take a look at Inside All Day, and any advice you have for us would be fantastic. Very insightful. Nadia, I've taken like a book of notes from today on this.
Nadia, as a fledgling live stream producer, what's been some of the biggest challenges you've been running up against when it comes to, basically making your content?
Scheduling, for one. Right off the bat, our biggest live stream right now, I would have to say, is Dames and Dorks on the channel, and we do it every other Thursday. And I know that could be a detriment to us that we're not doing it weekly, but due to scheduling conflicts and for everybody, going every other Thursday was the only availability we had to do for. Also finding topics, because I'm learning now from this that I'm not only a producer for it, but I'm also the host for it. So I do all the prep work for it, most of it, and then having to also be knowledgeable of what we're talking about, and then making sure there's no dead air on it too. So I think I just need to have a discussion with my panel and just kind of divide up jobs in a sense, because when I went into doing Dames and Dorks, the agreement with everybody on the panel was, we're a team. This is a team effort. We're going to do this together. And I'm finding that I maybe, because I have OCD and I'm very anal about things, I've taken it upon myself to kind of do most of the prep work. And I think that takes away from everyone else who wants to be a part of it and who wants to have it be successful. I also think having guests on it and booking guests and finding guests for it, because we're such a small channel, some people don't even know who we are. So they don't even read my messages when I send them messages about like, hey, we would love to have you on it. And I also think another issue, especially where pop culture is going now, especially pop culture and politics seem to bleed together, it was a role of mine to keep it separate. And that's very hard right now because it overlaps so much with topics that you have to talk about on the channel. And a lot of the panel has different ideas of different things. So trying to kind of keep everybody on the same pathway, if I'm making sense. I think I'm rambling a little bit, but if I'm making sense.
I think it's important that even though if you have a team that does a live stream, every team needs a leader. Mm-hmm. And people have to agree to abide by the leadership, right? So if the host isn't the leader, then the producer needs to be. And that basically comes down to, hey, here are the rules and guidelines of the live stream. And if you can't abide by these, then we'll find a replacement for you. No hard feelings, but this is the way the ship is run.
Yes.
Even though it's nice to sing Kumbaya and have a complete pure democracy at play, in the end, having a leader, a recognized leader, is something that is necessary to keep things drama-free and crisis-free and running smoothly. Because without a strong, well-defined leader, you're going to have a lot of people butting heads constantly about the vision of the show. And you don't want that, because that's going to end the show really quickly. When it comes to starting off, though, and Mike might want to chime in on this one. So when we first started our live stream strategy, right, we had this idea where everyone interested in doing a live stream would have their own show on our channel. So Alex had his Monday night show where he would basically be doing like an interview talk show type thing. I'd have my show on Thursdays, which would be something like focusing on writing and storytelling, stuff like that. And then Vader had his show on Saturday mornings, kind of like a throwback to Saturday morning cartoons. And of course, Vader, being the technical wizard that he is, he couldn't figure out how to do a live stream, so I had to be involved with that live stream as well to run things. And it turned out that Alex just kind of lost interest. He had a very hard time finding guests to come on, so he just kind of fell by the wayside on the live streaming stuff. I had a really hard time figuring out stuff to talk about for my live stream, but luckily me and Vader had a good rapport on our live stream, and so that kept going, and it helped that we kind of recruited some other YouTubers to be regulars on the live stream to kind of help us fill out the panel. Now, in those early days, we couldn't really get a lot of good guests, right? So what we decided to do was just stick with our hardcore panel until we built an audience. And then once the audience was there, then we could start going out to people and saying hey, would you like to come on our live streams? And that's how we started getting guest panelists to come on. And it took about a year to get to that point where we were we need to change up our format a little and start bringing in rotating guests. But one of the biggest strategies for building a live stream is kind of like the guest circuit, I want to say. So it's having big channels guest on your channel and have them, tell their audience about your channel. And then also trying to get on other people's channels to get exposure for your stuff. So when Midnight's Edge would invite me or Vader or Alex onto their show, we would always try to make it a point to show up because we wanted to get exposure to their audience, and they're good friends of ours. And so we wanted to help them out. Same thing with WDW Pro. Whenever he invites me on his show, I'm always sure to show up. And so doing that circuit of being on other people's shows and inviting people on your show is a tried and true method of actually building your audience. Mike, do you want to chime in on that?
It is an absolutely essential piece of building a channel. You've got to go on tour, and you've got to be, you've got to be that Tonight Show host that has them on your channel. But they're not going to come. There's two sides to this. Number one, they don't want to come unless you've got a decent size, because they, it's like anything in life. Some of these larger channels, they've already built out, and they've already built up significant audiences, and you'll have kind of anomalies where you'll get someone big on a show with a small audience. Sometimes it happens, but the better your audience is in terms of size and engagement, the more likely you are to attract other people. But if you can get on these other channels or talk to someone that will book you on these other channels, that helps enormously. One of my biggest things as producer over the last 5 years is I regularly get calls all the time, DMs, and I'm not encouraging anybody to do it, but I'm just saying, if you want to, give it a shot. But I'll get people that say, hey, can you get me on so-and-so's channel? Or, hey, can you see if so-and-so, for example, Doomcock. I want Doomcock to do the Saturday show, but I know that Saturday is one of his days off, and he's always completely burned out after Friday Night Frolics. I've asked, but he said no. But I'm going to work on him for hopefully this upcoming year. We can get him maybe for the Tuesday show, this time slot. That'd be kind of fun, and so, that's an example of, you got it. There's, as a producer, what I'm trying to encourage you guys in the audience to understand is that one of the things that you can do best for some of these shows you love, these channels you love, is connect the dots with people that you might already know, or know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, and help these newer, smaller channels that have big dreams get on some of these other channels so they can get that exposure. Because without that exposure to a variety of different channels, you're not going to be able to get these channels to grow. And these channels, all these channels that, when these YouTube creators start their channels, they get their first 10 or 50 or 100 subs, they're like little tiny little plants. They need sunshine, they need water, and they need care. And our job as producers is to be that caretaker, that gardener in the nursery, to watch them grow, and also to find other producers and mentor them. Me and Jonas kid each other, but I can't tell you, I spent hours and hours on the phone with Jonas when he first started. There's another guy over in Latino Slant. His name's Fletcher Williams. He's going to be a great producer, and others, Pat S. And try to find other people, because I think producers, these YouTube creators, the more that there's people like us that help these other creators offer great shows, the better everything's going to be for all of us.
Yeah. So I think I'm at an issue where I'm the producer, but I'm also the host and the creator on the channel. I love my husband to death, but he just, in a sense, shows up, gives his reactions, but I do everything behind the scenes.
Oh, so he's like Vader.
Yeah, and everybody and Mike, I will tell you, I do not say no to anybody who invites me on their live stream. I'm like, you know what? I'll make it work. I'll figure it out. Because like you said, it's a tour. It's me putting my personality out there for people to come to our channel and get more of our content too. So I think the one of the biggest issues we're running into is I wear too many hats for the channel. And I have to figure out what is really going to be my hat, and then maybe figure out working with someone else or having somebody's insight on the channel, because I wear too many hats. And I wanted to also bring up the point of being a leader, especially for my stream. I think I am the leader. I'm pretty sure I'm the leader for my stream, but I don't want to come off as a dictator. So where does that line stop? Because I don't want to say, hey, do this, do this, do this, and come off, I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. I don't want to come off too aggressive. But I look to see that I am the leader on most of the streams that we do have.
Well, I can tell you that there's different leadership styles,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes down to knowing who your team is, right? Like we made a decision a long time ago with the Solid Nerd podcast that when it came down to creative decisions, Alex has the final say because he started the podcast. It was his show. So I can advocate for things that I think are important creatively, but if Alex makes a decision, he has the final say. When it comes to the business end of things, we all agree that I would have the final say. So if it's a question of branding or like whatever, then if I make a decision, everyone abides by it. So it really just comes down to like how you communicate with your team, and you just say like, hey, look, this is my show. I'm producing it. You're all part of it. So I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your feedback. But at the end of the day, we all agree I have the final say. And when I make a decision, that's the end of it. And so it isn't about being a dictator. It's just about being like, okay, guys, I've heard all of your advice. I've heard all your feedback. This is the direction we're going. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, but this is the case. So it's more about consensus than it is about dictatorship, and just about, again, ground rules. As a producer, you need to make sure everyone is on board with the ground rules. Otherwise, it's chaos. Now, I do want to say something to Mike's point about, going on the circuit here. A lot of the big YouTubers who are like stars in their field or like whatever, a lot of them like to give back. So they will go on smaller podcasts or smaller live streams just because they're good people and they knew what it was like when they were coming up. And so they want to like help foster smaller channels by being guests on there. And we've been very blessed to have people like Gary and Razor Fist and Tom Connors and all these guys who are on bigger channels than ours come on and give us a boost, right? But there's something out there called the power of the ask, where basically like people are always like Kadish, how do you get all these big guests for like your live streams? And it's like I just asked them. So like it's about reaching out to them, inviting them, like introducing yourself, like just, and then eventually just asking them if they would be interested in coming on. If they're not, hey, that's cool. But if they are, that's even better, because then you start forming a relationship with those people. So at the very least, like always just ask. If there's someone that you want on your show, just ask. The worst they can do is just say no, right? And then you go and you ask someone else. And you keep asking until you get a yes. So, but if you don't ask, it's not like they're going to volunteer to come on unless you get them drunk like one night and have them like sign a contract or something. But the point here is that there's so many great people out there that would be more than happy to come on somebody else's live stream. You just need to ask them, right? So
one of the most epic asks that I was part of had to do with the Lord of the Rings 24-hour stream that Zach's wanted to do. He reached out to me. He says, Mikey, I want to do a 24-hour live stream with Flaccid Phoenix, and they wanted to do it all on Lord of the Rings 24 hours, and they wanted everybody, every big name you can think of on YouTube to show up. And they're like, how do we get this done? And I looked at them, I'm like, first of all, you guys are insane.
I love Zach's. Yeah.
I said that you're insane. You're not going to go for 24 hours. You're going to go for 12. They're like, no, we want to do 24. No one's going to watch you for 24 hours. You're going to go for 12. That's what you're going to do. And here's how you're going to do it. And so I produced that show for them. I wasn't behind the scenes live when the live stream happened, but I set it all up for them, including the asks. And in some cases I would have, Zach's ask or Phoenix ask, but a lot of the cases I did the ask. And I said, listen, we're going to have and here's some advice I want to give to all of you out there watching the show. When you do the ask, understand what you're asking for. What I would encourage you to do is ask, hey, we want to cover this topic. Are you available on any, say, Sunday in the month of January or Friday in the month of February, and book them? And earlier, X-Ray Girl was saying that it's ideal to get someone with Kadish, and we're saying 2 or 3 weeks out. But first you want to get that commitment for them to appear on your channel. That's the first level. That's the most number thing. After that, then you can make it convenient to their schedule. Either they can pick a date that's convenient to your actual roadmap as to when you're already live streaming, and so they can plop in when it's convenient to them. Or, if it's the case that they're just not going to be available on certain days that you go live, well, then maybe you tailor it to them. But first, get the agreement to ask that to make an appearance. And the more specific you can be to their area of expertise, the better. There's a question that came up in the live chat. It was a super chat. So Blue Coin asked, is it better to start with scripted episodes or freestyle live streams? That depends on your goals. So in the case of George Molo and Valiant, they wanted to get big sub counts. So my advice to them was hold off on live streaming until down the road. You'll get to bigger numbers within a year if you hold off. That was my advice, and I've proven to be correct. So in both those cases, they do more video. They did videos and they stopped it. They didn't do any live streams for a while. It's killing them. George Molo is dying to go live. He's finally going to do it the first weekend in January. Valiant was ready to go live 6 months earlier. Lord knows we know he loves to talk. And, but I think it was better for their channels. However, if that's not what your passion is, and your passion is to be a live streamer creator, well, then follow that passion. Don't worry about what YouTube wants, what's best for you. Do what Kadish says, which is that understand how YouTube works, follow your passion, and line your passion up with how YouTube works, and then you'll be happy. Because if you try to live your life as being subservient to what you think the algorithm is, then you're going to die inside with that dream of what you want your channel to become, whatever that is, that dream is.
Yeah, and I'll just add real quick, Nadia. So for Bluecoin's question, is it better to start with scripted episodes or freestyle live streams? So if you're starting a channel, like, it really comes down to what type of audience you want to court. So like doing scripted stuff, YouTube's going to find the audience for you, and they're going to serve your content to them. With live streams, you kind of want to already have a audience kind of built into your channel, so that they come on the live stream and you start building a community. You start getting those inside jokes. You start getting those chatters who are in the chat that you recognize because they're always there, and like they're always asking questions, and they're always being funny and doing stuff. So live streams is really about community building as opposed to scripted content, which is more about finding the audience for your channel. And I always think that you want to kind of start with scripted stuff, simply so that you can kind of narrow in on like, okay, who's responding to your scripted stuff, and then invite them to come join you on the live stream and start building a community that way. So that's kind of my take on it. We've got a super chat here from Fletcher Williams, I Suck at Games channel, for $4.99. God bless Mike, who has done more for small and larger channels than YouTube has as a corporation. It's very true.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you, Fletcher.
And we got another question from Bluecoin. What do you do if you're having trouble finding regular mentors in your town? Well, first of all, get outside your town, go to the internet. So like, for instance, because of Gary's meetups out here in Las Vegas, we were actually able to network in person with a lot of different YouTubers. And so going to nearby meetups where YouTubers are actually like coming together, like come out to Vegas next April when Gary has his next meetup, and meet me and Nadia and hopefully Mike. Like, there's going to be so many YouTubers there that you can, like, once you meet in person and they realize like, hey, you're cool, let's work together. Like, that's the first step. Like, Nadia wouldn't be on here if we hadn't met her.
Yeah.
and her husband, and like, and it was a chance that we even met her and Chris, because like they never like to leave the house.
Yeah, that's true. We had just moved to Vegas. I was the only reason why we were there was I was a fan of Crowder, and then Quarter Black left, so I followed Quarter Black to FNT. Started watching Gary, didn't know anything about it. I was like, you know what? I'm a nerd. I used to work in Hollywood. I love movies. Let's just go meet other nerds. Like my whole purpose of it was just let's go meet other people with different types of backgrounds who love this stuff. And we met Salty. We met all of them. We were fortunate enough that, and Jude and I had a connection, and here I am now. So I agree. Get out of the house.
And also, like, if they have a Discord, if there's a YouTuber you like who has a Discord server, join their Discord server, interact with the other people who are regulars on the Discord server. Follow them on Twix and reply to their comments. There's lots of different ways that you can network with other people. In fact, some of our best audience members and fans and friends, they were people who found our show. And in fact, JT Gunn, he would message us and he'd be like, "Hey, I'm coming to Vegas for work. Can we meet up?" And we will always try and meet up with people who are in Vegas, whether they're just fans or they're struggling YouTubers or they're big YouTubers. I mean, that's how I became friends with Mr. Reagan, was I saw he was in Vegas and I messaged him and I was like, "Hey, you want to grab lunch?" And he was like, "Sure." And now like we're really good friends. And so like, in fact, he's going to be our guest on Saturday coming up. So
I love Chris.
Yeah, Chris is great. And so like, you just never know, right? So, but the important thing is that you reach out to the people that you want to learn from and associate with. And you just keep reaching out. You don't have to be like overbearing about it, and don't get butthurt if they kind of don't reply or shine you on or like whatever. Just keep throwing it out there. There were lots of times where like I had people just not respond to me, like when I would message them on Twitter or something like that. And maybe the fifth time they'd like see the DM and be like, "Hey man, yeah, sure, love to hang out," something like that. It's just you never know. So it's about being persistent, but not pestering, I guess. So you just want to keep, raising your hand, letting people know that you're out there. But the big thing is just to be active in networking with people, because you never know who's going to be the next YouTube superstar, right? So it's just better to be a good person to everyone and try to help everyone rather than just look at it from a selfish point of view, right? So go out to your mentors, go out to the people you want to mentor or you want to have mentor you, and just try to become friends with them or connect with them in some way. Mike, you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, I wanted to say two things. One is any meetup that you can make where you can meet people that you interact with online is an important meetup to make. And number two is that you might not always be able to get, your dream mentor on YouTube, but maybe there's someone around them that you can connect with. I mean, I think some of my best friends I met while in the last 5-6 years, like maybe they wanted to, in their minds, they wanted to get to Doomcock, but instead, or Andre or Tom or, the list goes on, but yet, maybe they didn't exactly click or didn't work out, but I got to know them in the process and they got to know me. And now we're like steadfast buddies. And
I became friends. I became friends with Tom because he was coming out to Vegas for the Star Trek convention, and I offered to pick him up from the airport. I was like, "Save money on a cab. I'll take you to your hotel."
That's we don't need to go into the details, but I'll tell people this. Me and Kadish, Kadish is one of the most special people to me on the whole planet. It's definitely in this YouTube community because he and I met on a situational fluke. I'm not going to go into the details, but there was something between you and that happened, another creator on another channel, and I wasn't even there for it, and it happened, and then I got thrown into it. And in that process, I got to know Matt over the phone pretty well, pretty quick, pretty fast, and got a sense of the kind of human being he is. And I got to know the kind of human being that Matt is, and as I watched him develop his content, I mean, I consider you a brother to me. I love, there's been some Saturdays where I've been bummed out and pissed off and I didn't want to work. And I know at 1 o'clock where I'm going to be because I'm going to get a great experience. And it's made all the more special because I've got this personal connection that you and I built long before your podcast shows have been as successful as they are. And that's why I want to tell people out there, you never know who you're going to connect with that you're going to feel super special, super glue adhered to. And it happens. It happens.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It'll happen when you least expect it. But if you don't do what Matt says and ask or put yourself out there, it ain't going to happen.
Well, Mike,
When we-
that brings up another topic that I want to hit on real quick. What do you do when, as a producer, you run into drama? Because there are a lot of egos involved on YouTube. There's a lot of kind of hurt feelings back and forth. People have beefs and they don't want to show up on each other's live streams, or they want to publicly badmouth someone. What do you do when you run into a drama situation?
Tell them all to grow up. That's what I do. Mike, if you want to I've had experience where not only am I in the drama, but I am an outsider where both sides come to me. And to be honest, I don't understand it because we're all adults. If somebody has a beef with somebody you can be respectful adults, share your opinions, and just move on. I don't understand the whole high school drama stuff going on. You guys are definitely more experienced in the community, but I look at it as like everybody should just grow up.
Well, I think that is prudent advice. I can tell you that in terms of YouTube drama, I would dare say I am the most experienced Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam hardened drama YouTube culture clash warrior of everybody, because I have been at ground zero of every single breakup that has happened in the last 6 years on YouTube between all of your largest favorite channels. You all know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you know somebody that does. And here is my philosophy about it. And I'm in a different situation because I don't consider myself a YouTuber, thank God. I'm a YouTube producer or a recurring contributor. And I have this is my rule. Not only do I not want to create drama, I won't propagate drama. I won't buy into being the crowd. And here's the thing. Just because creator A and creator B decide that they hate each other's guts over some stupid TV show or movie or disagreement over God knows what tweet. And if somebody asks me to choose, then whoever asks me to choose and be loyal, I'm leaving and walking away, because I demand that I have the ability to be friends simultaneously with different creators who cannot stand each other at the same time. And I understand that this position of mine is highly unpopular. No problem. Cancel my membership on your channel. No problem. Don't invite me back. For example, I wasn't here when EVS and War Campaign decided that they hated each other's guts. I was in rehab on drugs with my leg on a cable in the air, wondering if I'd ever walk again. When I came back on a YouTube, they hated each other's guts. And everybody hated War Campaign. And I was a War Campaign guy from day one. And the list goes on and on and on of all the other creators that have gotten in fights. And so my philosophy has been very simple. I am going to be everybody's friend until they give me a reason. And if someone makes a move against me and it's personal and grave enough, okay. But for example, I didn't stop talking to Brian. I didn't cancel my top tier executive producer membership. I'm a member of his at the highest level. I didn't cancel that because he and I disagreed on Picard season 3. I thought two things. I thought it was too dark and it sucked. And I was horrifically depressed about how it ended. And I thought their choice in Alien, they pulled out of their ass at the end was stupid and lame and dumb. And the whole damn thing was too damn dark. And number two is I thought that they would just get used and it would just prolong Kurtzman's tenure. And all I've turned out to be correct. So, but I love Brian. We just had dinner this past year or lunch. I bought him lunch. We had steak lunch this year when I was in Anaheim. I'm not going to, banish Brian. I love him and I love the podcast and I love everything that he and his brother do. And so I have I'm a very forgiving guy until someone makes a move against me. But if two creators decide that they're going to fight and hash it out, well, then then whoever asks me to choose, don't ask me to choose, because I'll walk away from whoever asks me to choose, because I believe all these creators are great in their different ways.
Yeah, I like that.
There are two aspects to dealing with drama. And there's an aspect where you're involved in the drama directly. And then there's an aspect where you're coming in from outside to try to mediate the drama. And I'll tell you that in situation one, if you're in a situation where you're involved in drama, the best thing to do is to be humble, be willing to talk to the people who have been hurt, and hear their grievances. Don't try to argue with them. Don't try to negate them. Just be like, hey, man or woman, what's bothering you? What did I do that pissed you off? Hear what it was, and have the strength, the internal fortitude to say, hey, I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. That was my bad. Have the courage to apologize, even if you don't think you have to. Apologize, to open the dialogue to mend that fence. Okay. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride in order to get to a good point where you can fix what's been broken. And the only times I ever see drama pop off is when you have two people who are just so dug in with the I'm right and they're wrong mentality that you can never come to any type of healing or understanding. And so it's very important that if you're involved in drama, take it on the chin until it's proven that that person just is impossible to reconcile with. At that point, you don't fight them. You just back away and you say, okay, sorry you feel that way. And then you move on and you just keep them at arm's length and you don't work with them again. Okay. Now, the one that Mike is most experienced in is where you have two other people or a group of people beefing with each other, and you have to come in and be the adult in the situation and figure out how to fix things. And most of the time, if you can't convince one side or the other to be humble and come to the table in good faith and work out their differences, then it's just a losing situation. And you just have to say, like, okay, guys, like, we're just going to, move on from this, not go public, not try to monetize this by making content about it. We're just going to let bygones be bygones and go our separate ways and agree to disagree and not be friends. Okay. Now it's a very different, it's a hard juggling act, because whenever you have egos involved, and, Mike's dealt with this on YouTube. I dealt with this in Hollywood. When you're in a writer's room and you have like a writer and a producer almost coming to blows because like they're arguing with one another. Yeah. It can be a very tense situation, and somebody has to step in and set the boundaries. It's kind of like being a strong leader, where it's like, okay, look, I know you feel this person dissed you. Okay. They probably did. I'm not taking that away from you, but we need to be bigger here and come to the table and try to work this out. And you do that with both sides, and you just call them on being mature adults and have them sit down and at least try to mend fences. And if that's impossible, it's impossible. But if you can at least baby step it to the point where like one of them can admit, okay, I'm sorry, it was my bad, won't happen again, it can be very valuable, and that in a lot of ways, like YouTube drama, it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody grow. It doesn't help anybody gain fans. In fact, most people lose fans over petty dramas. And the best thing to do is like, if you can't fix it, ignore it. Don't address the haters. Don't address the trolls. Don't address it in chat. Just ignore it and move on and get to the next thing that's going to be attention worthy, right? And it's not going to be drama. It's going to be Disney doing something stupid or a movie flopping. Go ahead.
I agree. I have, since starting, and I'm a baby at this. My starting is that if it doesn't help build community, that it's off. Like I have no interest in it. And I have YouTube friends and creator friends who do not like each other, but at the end of the day, like I don't talk smack about the person around me. I don't care. I don't care about the beef that you have with this person. If it's not building the community that I want to see, then I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Now, Mike, we're getting close to the end of the show, but I wanted to touch base on something that you kind of talked about earlier, which was super chat management. Now, one of the great benefits of having a successful live stream is that the support from your community, the support from your chat, the people who love your content and want to monetarily support you, that's one of the greatest benefits of live streaming, because you can make more money off of one live stream than you can off of 10 scripted videos that you publish out on YouTube. And I know that for the Salty Nerd podcast, if it weren't for people like WG, who just super chatted us $100 earlier in the stream, if it wasn't for people like William Forbes and Scotty Dubb and Bob Dorsey and the Astro Nerd Boy, yourself, the Joker's Voice, people who just consistently donate to us, JT Gunn, even though JT only donates $2, it's like, hey, that's well welcomed. It's not because it's like we're not going to dismiss it because it's just $2. It's like, hey, he took $2 out of his pocket and gave it to us. That is amazing. So, you can make a lot of money on live streams by, courting those super chats. But at the same time, you want to reward the people who give you super chats by acknowledging them and reading their super chat. But you also don't want to derail the live stream by making it all about the super chats. So in your opinion, how do you cultivate a community that is more willing to donate super chats to you without sidelining your live stream by just focusing only on super chats?
It's an art more than a science. There's certainly some scientific elements to it, meaning that if you've got super chats that have stacked up more than 10 or 20 deep in the course of 10 to 30 minutes, you need to do a break every 20 to 40 minutes. That's kind of my rule of thumb. So 10 to 20 super chats in 20, 30 minutes. If they start stacking, then you need a break at the 20 to 40 minute mark. Other than that, it's an art. And as a producer, here's what I encourage people to do is that control one of two things. Either listen to the conversation, watch those super chats that by the way, StreamYard's automatically highlights now, thankfully, the last few months. And then literally just bring them up on screen as the conversation is ready for that point and drop them in and have those super chats flow in. Or if sometimes it happens, especially on Midnight Stage After Dark on those live streams, we'll get a super chat in and everybody just gets derailed because we've got 4 to 6 people that know everything about movies and TV and pop culture. We'll all end up at some tangent. Well, you know what I'll do? I'll just click the next super chat. Bring it, just keep it rolling. And it is a severe, one of the hardest things you're going to have as a producer is that it's really weird because on the one hand, it's the great dichotomy of being a producer. On the one hand, you have these creators that are doing the live streams and want to get those super chats because the truth of the matter is everybody who live streams would love to get $150 super chats all the time. That's just everybody. There's no creator that can tell me they don't, because they all do. Yet then you get these you're running a live stream, and I've got this host and his guests or her guests or whatever, and they're like they can't stop talking, and I got 20 to 40 super chats that are just stacked into oblivion, and I'm like, when are we gonna get? I thought we were here for super chats, but they won't stop talking. And meanwhile, they're like stacking and stacking. So the producer, literally, You've got to be that guy that when the lights go out at the stoplight, you're there with you're that cop, traffic, let's flow this way. Up, stop. Nope, now we're flowing this way. Now we're going this way, turn. And you literally have to take control and take charge because it happens fast.
Yeah. It does come down to like a formatting thing, right? So like if you have a situation where, you have segments in your podcast where it's like, okay, we're going to talk about this article, and then we're going to talk about this article, and then we're going to talk about this video or like whatever. In between those segments, you want to try to hit those super chats. That's a formatting decision, right? And like Mike said, that's every 20 to 30 minutes. That's how we do it on the Saturday show, where we'll have a segment, and then at the end of that segment, we'll hit the super chats that came in during that segment, and then we'll move on. Now, for big channels like Nerdrotic, right, or even like Tim Pool or something like that, they get so many super chats that like if they stop to read super chats, they do nothing else. And so what they do is they make it very clear. It's like, hey guys, we're going to get to your super chats at the end of the show. Okay. So they do their whole show, and the people who are super chatting know that their super chats are not going to be read till the end. And then you get to the end, and then you start reading the super chats, and you read as many as you can. And if you don't get through all of them, you do another stream at another time to catch up on them, just so that that super chat is not unacknowledged, right? Because the big thing about super chatting is you want that acknowledgement for the money that you've donated, and you're well within your right to get that. And in a way, it's almost like a quality problem, to have so many super chats that you can't get to them during like the show, so like you have to wait and like do them on a separate stream or like what have you. But I feel that as long as you make it clear how your super chats are being read, the people who are super chatting will accept that as long as you're consistent with it. And speaking of super chats, we have a members chat from Mark S47, member for 4 months. Thank you so much for your 4-month patronage, Mark. You choose your friends and colleagues wisely, Mr. Kadish. Yes, I try to.
Now, how do you feel about bigger content creators who put a dollar amount saying like, hey, we're only going to read, 20 above, 50 above, instead of reading all of their super chats?
I think that, as long as it's clear what their rules are,
Mm-hmm.
that's perfectly acceptable. So like if they're getting so many like super chats that they can't get to them all and they want to make their life easier by saying we're only going to read $20 and above, that's their decision. And as long as the people donating know that and are aware of it, I feel like it's perfectly fine. Because if somebody's like, well, I only have $2 to donate, but I know that they're not going to read it because it's $2, but I'm still going to donate because I want to support the channel. Like that's a decision that they make. And so like I think a lot of community building is more about just being very clear with what you're doing so that the community can choose to participate in it or not. Like for instance, like on our Saturday stream, we like to highlight people who've been very supportive of the channel by giving us like, the most in one super chat or the most consistent super chat or the most gifted memberships or what have you. And we have that on the screen throughout the course of the live stream. And we've been telling people all month that at the start of the new year, all that gets wiped away because it's a year by year running tally, right? So come January, anyone can get those spots. They don't have to beat out like the last guy. So as long as you're clear about how that works, people like the community can choose to accept it. And speaking of which, we have Paulus Plain for North Korean krone or not North Korean, Norwegian krone.
Corona.
100 Norwegian krones. Midnight's Edge Andre, we leave no super chats behind. Yes, this is true. You never want to leave super chats behind because they're all good. All right, we got 2 more questions and then we're going to get out of here. So these are both from Blue Coin again. So he asks, when is the best time for a channel to debut? More specifically, the best month.
Not October.
Really?
Not October. I can tell you that. For the last 5 years, I've noticed that every channel that I've worked with, which now numbers more than a couple dozen, I don't know what they do in the algorithm. It must have something to do with their fourth quarter, but somehow then everything changes between the end of September and the end of October. So
no, what it is, Mike, is so it's a seasonal thing. So if you go October, November, December, October leads into the holiday season. So for about 3 months straight or 2 months straight, it's all about the holidays, right? It's all about people traveling, spending money on presents, like all types of stuff. And so they're not going to be sitting around watching TV until January of next year. So October, November, December are all bad times to launch a new channel simply because the people who normally would watch YouTube, your normal audience, they're going to be busy doing other stuff. All right. So I feel like the first 3 quarters of the year is perfectly fine to launch at any point in that time, whether it be summer, spring, fall, like whatever, but avoid winter because the sheer number of back-to-back holiday stuff that goes on in those last 3 months, it's just too much. Like people are getting off school or they're studying for their exams. You have people who are traveling a lot. You have people who are making plans for like the family and things of that nature. So it's just such a hectic time up until, the new year that things get messed up in the algorithms and stuff like that. But like, so I would say the first 3 quarters of the year, anytime you want to launch in there, perfectly fine, preferably earlier in the year. It's just so you have time to kind of build up throughout the course of the year. But that final quarter, like Mike said, it's not the best time to do it. Yeah, in fact, I consulted with a channel that had locked in their launch in early November, and I said, look, I don't think this is the right time to launch a new channel because you're coming up on Thanksgiving really quick, and then you're going into Christmas, and then you got New Year's, and you're going to be releasing videos and people aren't going to be focused on that. I would actually wait until January to launch your stuff. And they're like, oh, we already told everyone we're launching, so we got to do it. And I was like, well, okay, it's your call. But yeah, so I would definitely say avoid the final 3 months of the year. And other than that, any month is probably fine to launch. Anyway, guys, we've been going for 2 hours now. I think we've covered a lot of interesting topics. Hopefully, everyone out there interested in producing their own YouTube live stream got a lot out of this. Mike, are there any final words of wisdom that you want to leave everyone with?
Get the advanced version of StreamYard if you're going to be producing a variety of channels, or you really care so you have access to all the tools. I have the top tier platform on StreamYards, and a lot of my channels aren't able to afford that. So I'm the admin and I host or co-host their channels, and they use my StreamYard account to run their shows. So I just there's a big difference between, in my opinion, running live streams with the free version versus all the bells and whistles for a variety of reasons. And I encourage you to make the investment to get all the bells and whistles.
Yeah, and funny enough, like our community who gives us super chats for support, they've paid for our StreamYard membership hand over fist throughout the year. So it's like, as long as you can make $25 in profit off of a live stream, you can cover what you need to for a StreamYards account, and you can get a free one too. And you can use OBS for free if you want to. There's lots of different solutions out there. I prefer StreamYard personally, but anyway, Mike, what live streams can people check out of yours if they want to help support you?
Well, the channels that let me think. Snowdub, I'll be there for Taco Tuesday in a couple hours, and then Valiant Renegade Sundays, Midnight's Edge After Dark, and of course I'll be on Doomcock Show as usual tomorrow night at 8:00.
Yes, and give our regards to Mr. Cock.
I will. I'll tell him you said hi tomorrow. He told me to tell you hi after I talked to him last time, and I forgot.
Yes. Remind
by the way,
him
by the way, if I ever have to do a show without you with Vader, you got to let me be a guest and log in that day so I can run stuff for him, because he's an awesome host. Vader, I love you. I know you're in chat, but bro, let me produce the show the next time if we're together. Not there, okay, it's just everybody. I was like,
yeah, Matt's not as quick on his feet as he is when he's just hosting. But remind Doomcock that I am currently his minister of naughty thoughts. I have been for the past 6 years, I believe. So it'd be good to.
Well, if I can't get him over here, I'll get you. I'll talk to him about getting you on Wednesday night if you're free. Are Wednesdays good or bad?
Wednesdays are great.
Okay,
yeah, more than happy to.
All right.
And Nadia, any final words of wisdom, and where can people find more of you?
I say take everybody who's experienced on this panel this 2 hours, take all of their advice, because I did. I wrote it down. So I'm excited to implement a couple of things and talk to you, Mike, about the channel and see if you've got any more insight for us. I have 2 live streams coming up soon. I have Thursday's next episode for Dames and Dorks, and Saturday we premiere our D&D campaign, which will be a live stream as well.
All right. In the private chat, I dropped my info. Hit me up on Twitter and we'll book something.
I did. I just followed you,
okay.
And I'll shoot you a message once this is done.
And also, before we get out of here, I want to give a big shout out to everyone who helped support us through super chats during the live stream. We have Superman, if he wasn't scared of green rocks, Legion of Memers, love those guys. We have Lover of Green, David Nelson of the 199. We have Mr. WG. Thank you so much for that $100 and 5 gifted memberships. You, sir, are both a gentleman and a scholar. Love you. We have Late Night with Cap, JT Gunn. We have Fletcher Williams, I Suck at Games channel. And we have Paulus Playing. Guys, thank you so much for your support. It really does mean a lot. It really helps us get closer to our goal of bringing Vader and Alex on the show full time. We want to be full-time YouTubers at some point, hopefully in 2024. And until next time, everyone, thank you so much for being here, and stay salty, my friends.